I think we can trace World Have Your Say back to the few months that followed the invasion of Iraq in 2002. The BBC was receiving thousands and thousands of emails from viewers and listeners around the world, but we didn't really have much to do with all of that information that we were being sent beyond just reading out the occasional email, which clearly wasn't the most sophisticated use of all of that energy from our viewers and listeners. So what we did over the next couple of years was sit down and think, well, how can we be more sophisticated about this appetite from our listeners to engage with us? And come 2005, the idea started to form a bit more seriously, and in 2006 the BBC World Service, the radio side of things, said yes, we'd like to do something with this. They asked Mark Sandell, a senior editor at the World Service, to bring it together as an idea, and in late 2006 World Have Your Say was born with a remit to involve our listeners more in the way we report the news and also to involve them more in how we discuss the news. I think there are a few benefits to World Have Your Say. First and foremost, clearly people all around the world are being directly affected by stories which we're reporting. So if we offer them a role in the way we report those stories, they can offer us information, experiences, things they've seen, things they've heard that can enhance our reporting. So that's the number one advantage. Number two is they can guide us on choosing the right stories and issues to put in the news, because as we monitor the stories they're using and also listen to what they're telling us, we can make sure our running orders are better geared up to the things they're interested in. So World Have Your Say can help from that point of view. And I think there is a third thing which has really started to benefit all of the BBC in the last year or so especially, and that is that online people can talk directly to each other. They can take a story or an issue and discuss it however they choose. And I would like to think that World Have Your Say has pioneered taking that spirit and putting it on the radio and on the television. So if you do turn us on, you'll notice that all of our participants are invited, and this applies whatever the subject and whatever the story, to speak directly to each other. And as such, we'd like to think we create an area where people can come together and talk directly with each other about issues, stories they care about. And that really does change the whole tone of the way you look at a story or an issue. And I think we've started to see that really happen way beyond World Have Your Say and in lots of different media as well as the BBC. The way people can get involved in World Have Your Say is essentially whatever's going. We don't limit it. We started off by using phone and text and email and a blog, and as the years have gone on, of course, Facebook and Twitter have come to dominate, so we use those. We're on Google+. Not many people are using Google+ at the moment, but we're there if people want to. And if anyone comes to us and says, hold on, there's this other way that we'd like to take part in what you're doing, then we would say, great, let's set it up. So we don't limit it, but at the moment, yeah, you're probably looking at email, phone, text, Facebook, Twitter and Google+ being the main six. CNN iReport, as the name suggests, focuses on people saying, this is a story, this is an experience I've had, please make it part of iReport, or even please make it part of the news on CNN. What World Have Your Say is doing is taking a broader approach to the editorial agenda and saying we're going to look at all of the news that you would get in any news program, but we're going to give it a slant according to the angles that our audience are taking and the stories which they're taking a particular interest in. And for instance, when the Oslo attack happened last year, and there were the attacks in central Oslo and then on the island of Utøya, I don't know if CNN would have put iReport on right in the middle of that story, but World Have Your Say was on air that Friday afternoon, collecting information being posted on social media, covering the story, but in a way that involved our audience in a much more detailed way. And I'd like to think that that's something which marks us out as being quite different to the way iReport goes about its business. World Have Your Say looks at every single new endeavour on social media, and we just were the other day looking at a blog post which listed the top 50 social media sites and looking at how we could do something with each of them. So we've got a huge appetite to engage with social media. But, and I should say this, the BBC, and these aren't our rules necessarily, but the BBC News has quite strict rules about which third parties it integrates into its website. So if you go to bbc.com/news, you're not going to find any third parties. The best you'll find is a couple of links to where people like me and lots of other people are on Twitter. But beyond that, it's not very integrated. So we're quite limited in what we're allowed to do in terms of putting it on the BBC site and integrating it. But if you're talking about us going onto a social media site and getting involved, then yes, we'll do it with anything that our audience wants us to do it. I'd like to think that BBC News in its 2012 incarnation, is still really doing what we've done from the start, which is to offer our viewers and listeners and readers reliable, objective news. And first and foremost, that's what we're doing. All that we're trying to do is evolve how we do that to take on board the differing tastes or the evolving tastes of our audience, and clearly the evolution of technology as well. But I think when things like Twitter and Facebook and social media more broadly started to have a huge impact on news, there was a big chunk of people, maybe a minority, but still a significant minority, who thought it's either or. We either stop doing what we're doing and start something new, or we don't. Well, I think especially the Arab uprisings have proved that's not the case, and actually social media and audience involvement has simply been added on to the many very good things we've been doing for decades. So you can still come to us for reliable, objective news. I would just say that that reliable and objective news will involve our audience far more than it might have done 10 or 20 years ago.